Good afternoon, and thank you for joining our Policy Committee meeting today. This meeting is being recorded. The documents which will be discussed here today are available on the event calendar and on our website, which is wmc.wa.gov. I am Amelia Boyd, and I am the Program Manager for the Medical Commission. I, along with Kayla Bryson, are the organizers for this meeting. Panelists, please make sure your line is muted if you are not speaking. Dr. Karen Domino is the chair for our Policy Committee. Once a presentation of documents is completed, Dr. Domino will open the floor for committee and public discussion. For those of you joining us via the GoToWebinar platform, if you would like to ask a question or speak, please use the raise your hand function or the question section. Please refrain from making inappropriate comments or you will be removed from the meeting. And with that, I will hand it over to Dr. Domino.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. So we have our agenda listed below, and I guess our first, it's a little hard for me to see, and so the three documents I had printed out, the first one is not that. So the first item is sexual misconduct rules, clarification, and gloves, and I'll have to look for that in my packet. Who's speaking about this? Mike?
So these documents are not in the packet. They are, those are all links within the agenda. These are just items that we have incorporated all of these policies or interpretive statements into the physician rules. So we just are asking to rescind all of these with one vote. So that's why it's on the consent agenda. But if people want to look at them or pull them off, the links are there and I can go to them if we need to take a look at them.
Okay, thanks for explaining that, because I didn't see that when I went through the packet. So are there any comments or concerns about any of these items? And
so I would move to approve the consent agenda, which is what all these guys are on, isn't it?
Yeah. And John, you second it? Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. For our meeting tomorrow, then should we just we'll bring it up and just say it was approved? Or does this
right, and then we'll just recommend that they approve them in all one fell swoop the same way.
Okay, great. All right. The next document is communicating test results to patients. This document we have seen before, and it was actually the next two documents we've seen before, and there were some concerns about it expressed at the last meeting. We had previously approved whatever, our committee had approved the changes. Mike went through and took some of the comments and has now brought it back to us. So Mike, do you want to point out some of the items that you changed?
Yes, on the first one, which should be on your screen now, direct communication of time-critical patient medical information. This was changing the word physician to healthcare practitioner. That's the only change that I can think of that occurred since the last meeting. I think I got some comments from you, Dr. Domino, and from Dr. Roberts. Down below.
Yeah, we do have PAs on our committee, so it seems good to have practitioner rather than physician. Also, is number C, identify and communicate clearly the critical nature of the findings. I don't know if that was new or not. That's in green.
That was old. That was at a previous meeting.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Roberts had a question on the second page. I'm scrolling to about using the word discordant instead of discrepant on number 2.
Yeah, I like discordant better as well. I don't know about others. John, any comments? I see you. Anyone else?
No, either word works for me.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I like discordant. To me, it seemed more like a medical term. But I don't know, as opposed to a legal term or, but, so I think that change is fine. Any other, I think that was it, really. Those two things, if we want to make that
I
practitioner.
have one more question. Although we can get through, we can get done with that. I have one more question about this document before we move on.
Okay,
go ahead?
do you want to ask a question before we?
Let's see, what is this under here? Under guidelines, it's number 3B. It says the practitioner should document in the medical record the communication, how the communication was made, and a few other things. And I'm wondering if that should say the medical record should reflect.
And I'm sorry,
Because
I'm not seeing that.
okay, under, let's see. This is, are we on, yeah, this is to patients. It says communicating diagnostic results to patients. First
Oh,
page.
we're not there yet.
What are we on? Did I miss something?
We're on the one that's on the screen. Direct
I'm sorry.
communication of time critical patient information.
Oh, between
Between
practitioners. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Okay. So do we have a move to approve this document? Good. Second? Good. Anyone opposed? I'll just say that. No, I assume all in favor. Say aye. Okay, good. Now we'll move on to the document that you're talking about, Alden. Before we start that, Mike, what was the changes here? There are a lot of blue things. I think I recall the issue of the diagnostic test results. I can't remember if that was added before or whether people wanted it clarified at the meeting.
There were no changes to this document from the last meeting. So all the changes that you see here are the changes that were suggested to the last meeting, but the commission didn't adopt it. So I'm bringing it back with the same changes highlighted.
Okay. And then Alden, you said under 3B.
Under 3B, it says the practitioner should document, but in an outpatient setting, it may not be the practitioner who does that documentation. It may be done by a nurse or whoever. And I was wondering if it should say the medical record should reflect the communication. So instead of saying the practitioner should document in the medical record, it would say the medical record should reflect the communication and how the communication was made and when the communication was made.
Put it in passive voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any comments about that? Seems fine to me. The medical record should reflect who made the communication, how the communication was made, and when the communication was made.
Right.
Any other comments about it? So Mike, can you make that change for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Is that okay
yeah.
to have that terminology? I mean, passive voice? Your word is not to come up and say it doesn't like it, but it seemed fine to me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, and anyone have a motion to approve this with a change? Yeah. Second. Great. All in favor? Aye. Great. All right. And then we have the final document, which is practitioners exhibiting disruptive behavior. And this one has a lot of red on it. Mike worked hard on this. Mike, you want to tell us what you did and point
Sure.
out the,
All I did was I deleted what I believed was outdated information, and then I saw some redundancy in the document. So if you look at the first couple of sentences under background, first 3 sentences, doesn't reflect current standards. I mean, there's been plenty of consensus about the adverse effect of disruptive behavior. And we can't say in the past 10 years, we've realized it presents a potential threat to patient safety. Remember, this was drafted in 2012. That's how far back this goes. So I thought those 3 sentences should be taken out. And then the Joint Commission, the next sentence talks about what the effect of disruptive behavior is. And so I thought that should really be moved below. We should get right into the definition. So we quote Kent Neff, and we don't have to quote him, but he had a nice definition, but we don't have to name him. But I left it in for your consideration. So we begin with Kent Neff giving his definition. By the way, Kent Neff used to be the head of our WPHP a long time ago, and he's acted as an expert for us. And then we define it with Kent Neff's definition, and then we say the Joint Commission describes behaviors as including blah, blah, blah. And then we have the examples in the bullet points. I just thought that was a cleaner beginning to it.
okay. I mean, you have the reference for Kent Neff, and I didn't know who he was. So to me, it just seemed you could just provide the definition with the reference and you see his name, but I don't care that much.
You mean just begin with the definition and then have a footnote with attributing the definition to him?
That's right. Because you have reference number 4, you have footnotes, right? I call them Neff K, understanding and managing physicians with disruptive behaviors. Although it doesn't give a year, it's page 45 to 72. I assume this is a book, but it doesn't have a year for a publication date or what it is, or an internet. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I can get that.
Complete. Do you guys know Kent Neff is? I mean, is that something that from a historical standpoint in the state, it would be important to reference this individual by name in the text of the document as opposed to leaving him as in the reference list? No.
Oh.
Scott, you said something. I saw your hand raised, although I barely see you.
Sorry. Yeah, I just had a couple of questions, really more like a comment. I think eventually some of this is going to become outdated. I noticed there are Access 1 and Access 2 references. There's going to come a time when students will look at that and not know what that is, since the DSM-4 or 5 got rid of that. And I'm wondering, the list of examples, is that from Joint Commission? The bullet points?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't draft this original document. I don't know.
I don't think Joint Commission lists it that much, Scott. And
I'm just. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think Joint Commission lists out those kind of examples. Actually, they may just have the definition.
I'm just curious about a couple of the examples, criticizing a patient's hospital treatment or comments that undermine a patient's trust in a physician or hospital. I can just imagine, again, a hypothetical, and maybe this is construed and remote, but what if there is an iatrogenic injury and that needs to be in the medical record? I don't know if I'm splitting hairs, or is that an accepted list, or should we look at it? That was really my question.
So Scott, this is Alden. The problem that I have with the list is that it looks like it's inclusive and it shouldn't be made to look as though it's inclusive. I'm not certain. I think you may raise a legitimate point. Do we need the list at all? I think we have a definition. I think if we do have a list, it should say this is a list, but not, this list may include, but is not limited to. I would wonder if we need a list at all.
I also had some concerns over that list as well, especially dealing with the criticism thing about the care, but I don't see it as necessary. I don't know, you know, I maybe people want to have things spelled out, but it, you know, when you provide a list and they have disruptive behavior that doesn't fit into the list, then they may argue they didn't have disruptive behavior. And with the definition and information in the paragraph above, I don't think it needs to be specified.
We can remove it.
Well, I'd like to take a
John, what do you-
contrarian.
Yeah, this is, a lot of hospitals have policies such as this, and they list out certain examples as may include, but not, or are not all inclusive. So hospitals already have guidelines that they use in their own policies too. I know that the policies that we were given by, for example, Horty Springer, when they were giving us some policies to take a look at, did have some things in there. I think it just gave the provider an opportunity, the leadership something to latch on to, but I don't know that we need it in this policy.
So this says like overt actions such as verbal outbursts and physical threats, and passive activities such as refusing to perform assigned tasks or quietly exhibiting uncooperative attitudes towards routine activities. That sort of describes, gives, you know, an overview of what these might be. John?
Just a comment. Having worked on concluding the Dellashaw case, a number of times when we were talking about disruptive behavior, several times the question was asked, what is disruptive behavior? What do you mean? What are you talking about? And this came from people who I would thought would have a better general understanding. So given that, I kind of like the examples. I think that we should say something that here is a potential partial list or includes the following. Some language, it doesn't say that these are the only ones, but I think a lot of people really don't understand what disruptive behavior is on the part of a physician.
It does say examples may include.
Well, I actually thought Karen's reduction to about 3 different bullet points sounded very intriguing. I don't know if you can say it again, Karen, but I kind of like.
It's in the red above there. If you look above there, that's what Mike wrote in there. You could add some other things into there potentially.
I think I would just leave it at that, because that lets it be broad enough to be able to say, this is what we're talking about. And these are examples of it. I sort of feel like less is better in this circumstance.
And if those are examples provided by the, I'm sorry.
I was going to say less is better and more broad, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And if those are examples provided by the Joint Commission, it's probably safer to include those examples.
Well, except if they are examples provided by the Joint Commission and none of us seems to know, then if somebody asks, we can say, well, the Joint Commission says, and bring it up and say, here it is. I don't think we have to replicate what the Joint Commission has done.
I don't think I've ever seen it listed like that in reading the Joint Commission manual with a whole list of things like that. I could be wrong though.
Well, I would, Christine, if anybody would know, you would. So if you haven't ever seen it like that, it probably doesn't exist.
Not with that, much detail to all of those examples. I think they depend facility to determine what their policy is going to say. So if you write your policy based on the Joint Commission's definition, then your policy could include some of these things in there if you want to do that. But the Joint Commission is more broad, and then they leave it to the individual facilities to take it from there. They look for policies.
I would move that we keep the stuff in red up above and we delete the examples that are down below.
Great. Anyone opposed to that?
Since I raised the issue that no one seems to understand what it is, I would agree with Alden to remove the language. It's I'm just coming off the recent experience with Delashaw, and I was just surprised how many times I heard, what is disruptive behavior? So I think the other statement is more definitive and is also a very broad statement. So should cover all what we need to cover.
So Dr. Bundy has his hand up if it's okay if I go
Sorry,
ahead
yeah,
and unmute him.
Well, hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Nice to see you all. I just wanted to make maybe 3 comments. One is I totally agree with the direction that you're headed in this dialogue about the list versus the descriptor in red above for a variety of reasons that I won't belabor here. But also, it's sort of relevant to the area below that you discussed in passing, listing out disorders related to disruptive behavior, unfortunately has the effect of stigmatizing those illnesses. So I would actually just, my recommendation would be to eliminate that. And then finally, I think it might also be helpful and potentially important to add a statement after what is disruptive behavior, to add a statement commonly seen now in authoritative references on this topic of what is not disruptive behavior. And it's usually some statement to the effect of, you know, reasonable and appropriate advocacy on behalf of patients or quality of care within an organization shall not be construed as disruptive in nature. Something that's also seeks to protect people who might disagree but not be disagreeable.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Thanks for that excellent comment. I have been around to see where people who are raising quality concerns or concerns over other providers' behaviors and comments being considered, quote, disruptive and non-team players, and what they were really in the right.
So the one caution I would make about, I'm sorry, the one caution I would make about that though is I don't think I have ever dealt with a extraordinarily disruptive physician who didn't say, the problem is everybody else, I'm a whistleblower, this is a quality issue. And so on the one hand, I believe that we should say something to the effect of, it may not be, but I don't think we should support that as being a way out for anybody who's just gotten through berating a nurse in front of 40 different people.
Well, that's, I mean, that to me is different than raising a concern with administration over something.
I
Yeah.
agree. But as
Yeah.
I say, I don't think I have ever been involved
Berating
with it.
someone is verbal outburst. I don't know. Yeah. And it's embarrassment and.
Well, I think we can come up with language that would work for that to do what Dr. Bundy wants to do. I just think we need to be cautious that it doesn't provide a get out of jail free card.
Right.
And
Dr. Bundy. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, I think Dr. Bundy raised some really good issues. I'd be more comfortable if if we could table this and I could bring back a new draft next time for your consideration, and I can talk to Chris in the meantime.
I think that would be excellent, but I have one more thing that I wanted to put in there.
Okay.
That is, as you go down a little bit further, it says when a commission member receives a complaint concerning a practitioner exhibiting inappropriate or disruptive behavior, It says the commission may investigate such complaints and take appropriate action, including possible suspension. But it also needs to have in there possible revocation, because if you have somebody who is significantly disruptive and is recalcitrant, their license, we need to be able to take that license away.
Okay. Scott, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question somewhat related to that. Should we put in here, I don't mean to raise unnecessary complications, but what authority do we have for disruptive behavior? Is it something that necessarily falls under 180 sub 11? And if so, do we need to undergo rulemaking? Is this
Wait.
ultra virus?
It is well tied to patient safety. It's been tied by the Joint Commission. It's been tied by a variety of different people. It is a quality of care issue, and it is how mistakes happen, whatever else. I do not think it needs to go through rules. I think we have plenty of ability to prosecute these.
Scott, we've had a number of cases of disruptive behavior. We have that discussion every time. We've almost always put it under sub 4, under the theory that it's a threat to patient safety and therefore it's below the standard of care.
This might be a little nitpicky, but in that sentence that Alden was referring to, should we say possible license suspension or revocation?
Yes, John, I think we should.
Yes, definitely.
I'm wondering if we need the word possible.
I agree with that also. I think
Get rid of that word too, yeah.
Can result in.
Yep.
Are there any other comments or suggestions about this for Mike to go back and work on and bring it back, I guess when we meet next in March? Or whenever it is. If not, I mean, one thing you can do is read through it on your own again with some of the comments in mind and send Mike the comments. And that we will just table it for this time around and rework it. Any other comments about this one or anything else? Amelia, you mentioned about the audience that the non-panelists can bring up other comments now outside of these things. Is that right? Or
Correct. They can't bring up anything that's not on the agenda, but there's no other
Okay.
questions or hands raised at this time.
okay. So I guess we can adjourn the meeting. Is that right? Great. Well,
Yes.
see you guys tomorrow. Thanks
you,
for
everyone.
participating. Thanks, Dr. Bundy, for the good suggestions. Appreciate your comment.
Mike, I'm happy to work with you, and I've got some maybe some updated references that will help us here.
Okay, I'll shoot you an email and you can give me what you have.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, meeting adjourned. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good
Bye,
evening.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.